talk to you about friends. Don't let friends pee their pants. Who's excited? All right. Joining me today is...
Hi guys, I'm Dr. Jennifer Guzman, physical therapist, been in the Valley for about 5 years, therapist for 6 years, and dabbled in the pelvic floor space for 4 years. So thrilled to join Kelly here at the start of 2025. I'm also an avid runner, skier, anything that keeps me playing outside. So happy to be here, so happy you were here.
Totally. And Dr. Jen's joining the practice, bringing a mentorship with all things pelvic health. She brings her history as an ultra runner and as the certified running coach to the team at Pelvic Floor. So she's going to be able to dive in a little bit more if there's specific questions about at least just with running versus jumping versus running efficiency and things. And it can really collaborate with all the great strength training that Lacey does here, as well as all the good work we do in pelvic PT. Before we move forward, I do want to give one shout out to Lacey. And Wildfire Fitness. I want y'all to know that Lacey does do my own programming for me. I started working with her 2 years ago with the goal of doing a pull-up by the time I was 50. I was 40 when I started working with her, and last week I did my first pull-up. All her, it's all her. And I'm going to do more pull-ups now. I don't know what my new goal is. We have to decide that. All right, so how many people here have a pelvis? Whee, everybody! Yay, welcome! So you all have a pelvic floor. Did you know that? Good. Do you know anything about your pelvic floors? What do we know? Okay, perfect.
They can get weak.
They can get weak. They can get weak. We had heard that they can get weak. And we are going to teach you about your pelvic floors and about the amazing, ironic finding that when they get weak throughout our life, it's not because they get loose and sloppy and weak, but it's because they tend to get overtoned, over tight, and they're too tight all the damn time. And that's the primary cause of P urgency and P leak. So already right there, just hopefully we just blew your minds, okay? This is Patty. Patty the pelvis. She's a pelvis with traditionally female anatomy. Okay, so we want to know the parts that we're going to talk about. You have your low back here, your two hip bones with your sacrum in the back, and they form a bony ring that's the stable bottom of your core. Inside the pelvic bowl, we have 3 primary pelvic organs. We're going to see if I can do this without dropping them. I usually drop at least one every given day. We have Randy the rectum, newly named today. Randy the rectum in back. Virginia the vag in the middle with the uterus on top, and Betty the bladder in front. I just named her this exact second. We were here, folks, when this happened. And these 3 pelvic organs, they should behave just perfectly. We honestly should never be aware that they're there. From the pee perspective, we should pee about once every 3 to 4 hours while we're awake, gradually building urge to pee. We sit down or stand up to pee, and we relax, and it's easy to start the stream, easy to keep the stream, easy to finish the stream. No dribbles, and the cycle resets. We should be able to sleep through the night without waking up to pee. We should never have to pee just in case all the time. We should not have to run into the bathroom before we do our double unders. Any of those things are a sign that maybe there's something that could be better. If you have a vag or love a vag, sex should be pain-free. It should be enjoyable. It shouldn't hurt. If you have a rectum, having a poop shouldn't hurt, right? We should have, on average, from 3 poops a day to 3 poops a week would be considered normal, and they should be preceded by a gentle building urge to poop. We sit down, we relax our pelvic floor, our colon pushes the poop out without pain, 1 or 2 wipes, done, cycle resets. Anything else than that? We're having terrible diarrhea, terrible constipation, pain every time we wipe, having to use half the toilet paper roll to wipe. That's all abnormal. But because nobody talks about this, we don't know what's normal and what's not. So now you know more than a lot of basic primary health providers. And we're just getting started. So pelvic floor muscles are in space. And it's not just one muscle, right? It is more than 13 muscles on each side of the pelvic bowl. And I'll find that when we were talking. I'll go find it. Actually, I'm just going to my case and grab it. And these muscles, they're like a hammock that go from the front of your sacrum to the back of the pubic bone. And some of them control the P-zone or the urethra. Some of them control the middle for like balance when running or doing a single leg squat. And some of them are a little bit more in the back, around the rectum. But these muscles, we already talked about how they're like a hammock. They also behave like an elevator, shortening and rising up towards the top of, let's say, a 4-story building. They're meant to live like on the ground floor, usually at rest. The Kegel, thank you, darling. You're so good. Here's all those pelvic floor muscles. Holy heck, right? Like, it's incredible this ever works in the first place. So when you have Patty around, look at all these dang different muscles. Each of them has a specific role in pelvic function, but in overall stability. And specific muscles can go awry and lead to problems with all the things that we just said should be normal, right? So the hammock is like the elevator that should rest on the ground floor of a 4-story building. And based on the tasks of our daily life, it should automatically be called in to a Kegel, which is a lifting and shortening, the 2nd floor, 3rd floor, 4th floor, and then back down at a variety of speeds and tensions to match what we're doing. The problem exists, my friends, if the pelvic floor elevator starts to rest too high. And again, that's what we're going to find as the cause of leaks with jumping, leaks with running, leaky urges, 99% of the time, is that the muscles are actually resting too tight. Does that surprise you guys?
Yeah.
Right? It does. I've done this for 25 years, and the only people that have ever like, oh yeah, I know that, is people who have like followed my Instagram or been to a talk that we've done. And how that happens is if I sprain my knee, ouch, my brain will try to protect me by dissociating to some degree from the muscles of the knee and the hip. And in the fitness world and health world, we know that that means my brain will turn down the quadricep and gluteal activation, and it will turn up the hamstring activation, which isn't functional, and we need to learn about that to correct it, but we do, yay, and we go on. In the pelvic perspective, if we have a surgery or an injury or a painful period or a bout of the flu, which pretty much of all those things, everyone in here has had one of those things, right? The body is going to try to dissociate from the pelvis to protect you. And its reaction, rather than turning down the quad and up the hamstring, it turns down the tummy and up the pelvic floor. That's the pain inhibition, pain spasm cycle. And when that happens, we don't even know it's happening. That's why you can't fix it. And then you start to pee your pants or you start to get pee urgency. And we think we know we're supposed to do Kegels to stop that. We think we're leaking because we're super loose, so we just try to tighten everything. And we actually make things worse. The great news, though, is that there are really simple and specific exercises to connect you guys to these muscles, which we're going to go over today. And then Jen is going to take us through some really key things that contribute to peeing our pants with movement. Why might I pee my pants if I'm jump roping? Why might I be peeing my pants if I'm running? We can kind of bring it all together. Does that sound fun? Yes! I think so too. Okay, so first and foremost, everyone, close your eyes and place your hands in front of you like this. I guess place your hands in front of you like this and then close your eyes. Now, twist your palms up and down, keep going, keep going, keep going, and stop. What position are your palms in? And open your eyes and see if you were right, because not everybody's going to be the same. Okay. Oh my gosh, almost everybody was the same. That was funny. So, but you knew what direction they were, right? That's called proprioception, your ability to know where your body is in space. And the lack of that is at the root for some of these painful problems. So, Dr. Jen, there might not be enough of these for everybody, but those of you lucky ones that there are enough, please take one of these towels, and we're gonna roll it up like so, and we're gonna put it under our undercarriage. Don't worry, no, everyone's looking. Yeah, but we want some pressure on our badge and some, if we have a badge, some pressure right behind the scrotum if we have a scrotum, and some pressure on our rectum because we all have rectums. All right, is everyone good? Right there? Yep, you're sitting on it. And it's not because I think you're going to pee your pants. But it's to give your brain a target to find these muscles that we're talking about.
Who wants one? Look bigger.
So we use the rolled towel. This is called a cooch ball. One of my freaking favorite things ever. To give our brain a target to help find these muscles that the brain has disconnected from due to things that have happened in our life. Now, let's say we have like the most perfect pelvis in the universe. And ladies, this part is just for you. As we go through our life cycle, an estrogen changes. Okay, and especially menopause when estrogen drops. Estrogen, the queen estrogen, she's responsible for helping keep my collagen levels up. And that's why my boobs don't look the same right now as they did when I was 20, and they're not gonna look the same in 30 years. So they're just changing, that's life. But as this collagen reduces, there's increased downward pressure on the pelvic organs. So if that's happening, along with a reduction in support from the tummy and overuse of the pelvic floor, that's why it's common for ladies specifically to pee our pants as we age. It doesn't mean it's normal, but my mother, my grandmother, my aunts never got any of this. They all peed their pants with exercise, and they all probably stopped exercise, right? Mom hates me. Hi, Mom. And now, what else happens as we age? Look at the ladies specifically, men you matter too, but I'm talking to the ladies. Why does strength training matter? Yeah, we need exercise to stay strong and keep our metabolic rate up. So if we take away that exercise, now all of a sudden our cardiovascular system, our mental health is suffering. So this is about more than just not peeing our pants. It's about overall health and wellness. But I digress. So we're sitting on these towels, and we're going to guide you through 3 exercises to see how good can your brain find your pelvic floor. So, again, everyone's looking, so feel free to feel bashful. I'm teasing, no one's looking. You can close your eyes if you want to. I want you to have one hand on your low belly, one hand on your chest. Preferably we're sitting with our legs uncrossed, feet flat on the floor. And we should be very aware that these towels are there. They should not be painful, but it's like, hello. And if it's painful, we might need to make the towel smaller or even kind of get rid of it for now. That's a warning sign that work muscles are really tight. And we can help a lot. So, I want you all to relax your bellies and take a few nice belly breaths, inhaling, trying to fill in the bottom part of the belly. Exhale, the belly gets smaller. Your first task and observation is, can you breathe into this lower belly? Some of us, this might be hard. We might find ourselves chest breathing for a lot of reasons. So take a few calming breaths and try to just gently, if we are chest breathing, say, no, no, body, please keep quiet in the chest and breathe down into the belly. And you'll notice that as you breathe in, it's the passive pressure from your diaphragm, which is your breathing muscle, that's just kind of pushing all the belly contents down, so your belly just passively gets bigger and then smaller. Your sweet pelvic floor muscles, oh, keep your hands there, you're not there. Your sweet pelvic floor muscles that are that hammock at the bottom of the pelvis, if they're, and that are touching this rolled towel right now, if they're resting on the ground floor of that elevator, as you inhale and your belly gets bigger, those pelvic floor muscles will drop and elongate and press down more into this towel. And as you exhale and your belly gets smaller, they'll go back to the ground floor. Inhale, belly gets bigger, pelvic floor drops down. Exhale, belly gets smaller, pelvic floor rebounds back like a wave on the beach. Now, if we're having any actual pelvic problems right now, that might hurt, and we also might not be able to feel anything. And number one, it actually might not be moving yet. If your brain is disconnected enough, it won't move right now. Or if it's moving just a little bit, your brain is not trained to receive that movement information. But simply sitting on this towel or sitting on the seated surface, trying to visualize how this is meant to move, and if we're curious about why is that hard, that's going to give your brain the appropriate signals to rewire when you go to bed tonight. I'm going to say, Dr. Kelly and Dr. Jen asked us to do this. What the heck, Francis? We have no idea what's going on down there. Tomorrow, it's a whole new brain node. It's like you're the first person to go up the Rory Cutoff in the spring. It's a hiking path over the Teton Mountains for those of you that aren't from around here. It's going to be hard to make it through. You're going to bushwhack a little bit. More and more people go through, the more clear that path is. That's neuroplasticity, and our brains are like the smartest thing ever. So you can learn to sense this. Now, if I'm your cute bladder, okay, hi, and my tummy is meant, and my estrogen, my collagen, is meant to help support here, and the pelvic floor is meant to relax here. Age, pelvic problems, pain, turn down the tummy, turn up the pelvic floor, frown face. So this exercise specifically is taking the pelvic floor down from doing too much work. Now, and can anybody feel that moving? No? There's no one. No, that's okay, and that's normal. Like that would be, I think, what's common the very first time. Like hardly anyone can feel this moving the first time. The next challenge, though, is we're not relaxed in daily life, right? We have some amount of functional tension. So if I just took the pelvic floor down to a better resting tone, now I need to actually train it to stay there while my tummy learns to do its job, while my shoulders and my butt learn to do their job. So pelvic floor, if we can't feel it going down, at least pretend that you could feel it going down. Sense where is it touching that seated surface? Where is it touching that towel? Keep it on that towel and find a muscle that's between your belly button and your pubic bone, and try to engage just the deepest, lowest tummy muscle to hug your sweet bladder towards your spine, but no tightening the butthole, my favorite word. So active abs, relaxed pelvic floor, active abs, relaxed rectum. Active abs, can you still breathe? And why the heck is that so hard, right? Your diaphragm is actually different. Your tummy is meant to support your pelvis, and you should still be able to breathe. This is not the maximum firing for a 1 rep max. This is life. And if we can't figure out how to have the tummy support the bladder with a relatively relaxed pelvic floor, we're going to be okay. Okay? Relax everything. And your final exercise, and if you want a video of me cueing this, just make sure that your email is on that sign-in sheet as you leave, and I'll just send you a thank you email with links to me guiding you in these exercises because they're awesome. The final exercise is to help your brain figure out where the pelvic elevator is in space. So, sitting on this rolled towel, using just your pelvic floor muscles, which are around your urethra, vag if you have it, or the base of the penis if you have one of those, and back of the rectum. Ladies, you are going to squeeze and lift your pelvic muscles as though you are stopping the flow of urine. Boys, you are going to lift everything up out of cold water. Different cues, it's very important. Hold for 3, 2, 1. Here's the more important part, relax everything. Ladies, we're no longer holding in pee. Boys, oh, we're in a hot spring now. Yay, we can relax. It is the ability to contract and relax that is important. So when you do that Kegel and relax, go ahead and try it one more time. Quantify how far up do those pelvic muscles go. Can you feel the butthole move differently than the middle part, differently than the P-zone part? Can we hold it? Because sometimes it's hard. Again, these muscles are pretty dang weak because they're too tight all the time. Can we hold it for 3, 2, 1, and now try to let it down smoothly. And then take a couple belly breaths. And usually the first time we do this, when we take those belly breaths, we feel a significant additional letting down. And that's eventually we want to be able to contract and relax fully. Why does this matter? We need healthy pelvic floor muscles. Muscles are not meant to rest tight all the time. Muscles that are tight all the time are going to hurt and they're going to leak. And if we all leak, guess what? Leaking pee is associated with twice the admissions rate to nursing home, twice the rate of falls, increased cognitive decline, usually because we're not exercising and we're dehydrating ourselves. But like, so those are real tangible things. We want to take care of this right frickin' now. Functionally with running and jumping, okay, if I'm gonna do a little squat, my tummy muscles need to maintain some amount of tension in the same length as I squat. If I throw a bar on, guess what? My tummy's gonna have to do more work as I lower. My pelvic floor needs to maintain tension and elongate as I squat. So if your sweet brain can't tell the difference between your tummy and your pelvic floor, you're gonna pee your pants. But luckily, we can teach you how to fix that. And the big three that we just did are like 90% of that. Whose brain's excited and full? Yes, you can come off with the towels now. Good job. You're free. And as you come off with the towels, like take a couple more of those relaxed breaths. Can you feel a difference, like in your butthole specifically? That's usually where it's like, oh, you know, I couldn't feel much when I was on the towel, but now that I'm off of it, there's a little bit more movement. And so that's the benefit. Even if we just sit on a rolls towel 3 minutes a day, you're gonna. Okay. Any questions about that bit? Because that is like more than most normal PTs know about the pelvic floor. You all now know. Okay, well, we'll do questions at the end. So now Dr. Jen's going to take over. Oh, sorry. Dr. Jen's going to take over and give us a little bit more in depth about why you might pee your pants with movement.
Yeah, so let's chat a little more like in your pants, running, jumping, things that require more impact. So anything that requires impact is gonna produce a ground reaction force from the ground. You jump up, that force has to go somewhere. It's gonna go right back up through your body. So there are ways you can alter how much force is transmitted up through your body. We see forces, 2 to 7 times your body weight with every step you take with running. 2 sounds way better to absorb than 7, and by some simple changes in your mechanics, how you're landing, you can have that 2 versus 7. So one of the big things we look at, and Kelly demonstrated that quite well, is, okay, how are you landing when you run? Kelly, will you land kind of heavy for me and out in front?
Just a jump or a run?
Let's go for a run.
Okay. Ready? Here we go.
Lovely, it's very exaggerated. But when your foot is out in front like that, that force is pushing you backwards. So your body is having to absorb so much more of that. Ouch bones, ouch muscles, ouch pelvic floor. Your efficiency is going to suffer. So if you can bring that foot under your center of mass, it's quiet, she's landing much more on her midfoot. So that's one of the big things we're going to look at with your running. Where's your foot landing? We're also going to look at what's your torso doing. If you're running like gripped and stiff, firstly, those abs are just putting in so much extra pressure. There's no rotation happening, so that pelvic floor is just going to probably automatically lift up and be tighter. Not what we want. You want that pelvic floor to be like a springy trampoline, natural increase in activity, because you are increasing the demands on your body, but it shouldn't be held at level 4 throughout your run. You're going to pee. So you want to allow a little bit of trunk rotation, and it should be coming from your belly button. Shoulders contribute some, maybe 4% to like optimal running efficiency, but most of that rotation should be coming from your belly button. So it'd be, hips go one way, shoulders will go the other. That's going to cue you up for just gentle, smooth movement pattern. Let's look at, your ankle. One of the other quick things, if we're thinking running, is you straight up and down versus hinge forward versus hinge backward.
And even cadence change.
And even cadence change, yeah. up. So again, we want to be as efficient as possible. That's going to be tipping slightly forward. So if you think, if you're out for a run, lean into the wind, or the ski jumpers that go like off those big ski jumps, they're angled from their ankles. They're tipped slightly forward. You're not going to go quite as dramatic as they go, but just the slight tip from your ankles, and that's going to naturally set up a little bit more engagement of your tummy, hello efficiency. What else on running?
Foot control, maybe that's more jumping.
Yeah, let's move into foot control jumping, sort of a general movement pattern. So Dr. Kelly is gonna take a two-legged jump for me. Bad. Ouch. Did you pee a little bit? Maybe.
Do not. But I would have. It was at a different time in my life, and I would have tried that for sure.
So when we're thinking about jumping, we're gonna look at, okay, what are your ankles doing? What are your knees doing? What are your hips doing? That was really loud, really heavy. That was all through her heel.
Yeah, and if you look to the side, you kind of feel like you're just vertical. That's all I got.
So when we're jumping, we want to try to land softly. Also, probably just slightly forward again. That slight forward position of the trunk is going to drive that deep tummy muscle a little more. Very good.
Thank you. This? Or this?
So another really common movement pattern you see is this collapsing, feet doing whatever they want. So not only does that set you up for other injuries, but you're not being optimal with your force absorption. So if we can kind of think, ankles nice and vertical.
Okay.
And then keeping some space in between your knees.
Ooh. What if I did this? Is that good?
It depends. Really, it depends. Depends on the phase of life you're in, what your goals for exercise are.
I'm such a brat, aren't I? I know, gosh. Well, she still works with me, even though I'm an idiot.
So, some of the other things running related, if you've checked out your pelvic floor, everything is good to go. You have good strength, good length, good coordination. We're gonna run you through some basic strength tests. You have the strength of your hips, of your calves. So, single leg calf raises, single leg squats, some bridges. Do you have the basic fundamental strength to tolerate the demands of running? If not, maybe we should, I'm not gonna take running away from you, especially if that's your passion, but there's absolutely gonna be some things to work on while you continue running. If you're okay with cross-training, maybe you cross-train for a little bit. Some fun tweaks if you're like, I have to run, I don't care if I pee my pants, I will do all this other exercise. Try putting the treadmill on a slight incline, like 3 or 4%, and that's naturally gonna bring your foot under you a little bit and tip your body forward a little bit. It's a cheat.
I love cheating about tricking the body.
You can work on that form, that pattern, on that incline. Ideally leave a little less. Ideally have a little less pain. Still get a great workout in.
Totally. And on your little handouts that you guys have, Mark, your question, my little cute pony. And again, we're just going to let everyone wonder about that comment. Can't say it in German, unfortunately. Your question about the first level checks. If we're peeing our pants, the very middle of your handout is basic human well-being things. Are you safe? Are you sleeping? Are you drinking a bare minimum of water, eating enough protein, eating enough fiber? Having access to these things and enough, what does that mean? That's a whole, it's a whole ball of wax there. But a good bare freaking minimum
is trying to get 20 grams of protein and 10 grams of fiber in every meal or meal snack combo, of which you should have 3 every day. Without that bare arse minimum intake, your body is not going to have the stuff it needs to build muscle and to stay strong. Ladies and gentlemen, creatine supplementation is phenomenal for our muscles and our bones as we age, and is most beneficial in the first 20 to 30 minutes after a hard workout. That's not on there. You're welcome.
How much?
Oh, yeah, we'll discuss that.
Okay.
When we're not on record. The second grid, or the second kind of part of the trifold to the right, is kind of the next level screen. And this, the British Journal of Sports Medicine came out with a landmark paper about 2 or 3 years ago, giving some basic guidelines for return to running postpartum. And they can be applicable for every human being, of very basic checklists for strength that we need to be cleared to start to run again. So if you're here because you're peeing your pants with jumps, look at that list on the far right. It's like a wall sit for 60 seconds, a plank for 60 seconds, front and side, 20 calf raises or something, going like this in place. And then that's great, right? But hear what Dr. Jen just said about running taking 2 to 7 times our body weight. Do we think that's enough true strength for our bodies to be ready to handle the tasks of running? No, it's really not. It's more like a midway goal. But if we look at, we want to master the big 3 foundations: relaxed breath, supported breath, Kegel, and relax at the start. Now can we do active abs with a relaxed butthole while we do the kind of like warm-up-y stuff that's like 3 sets of 12 to 15, right? Now when I start loading up more, and that would kind of be like that far right column. I think it's like intermediate stuff, honestly. But if we are deficient in one of those spots, heck yeah, it's low-hanging fruit. But on the back, we have some more Gen-specific running comments about cadence of running. And that cadence is what's going to make all the difference. So think about all the muscles that we're looking at in these screens. I want to now take your calf raise, and instead of being able to do 20 calf raises, Jen, what's the ideal running cadence? What does that even mean? I don't know.
So running cadence, if we're counting every step you take, right, left, a lot of the efficient marathoners are hitting 180 steps per minute. So if you're just counting your right steps, that's 90. A lot of the research is showing, 80 to 90, if you're somewhere in that range, you're probably doing pretty well. It does have, it varies based on some mechanical forces of your body, bone shape, lengths, but 80 to 90 is a really good place to start. And if you're having dysfunction, you may want to change that.
Yeah, so if we're leaking with, and the same thing could be said for jumping, if we're leaking with jumping rope, okay? Like, what speed are you leaking? If you go slower, is it better or worse? Like, note those things, because if I can do like this, fine, but I start to speed up and I start to pee my pants, that's perfect. That's where I need to build my strength. So maybe I didn't pee my pants at 40 beats per minute. Click, 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 click. I'm gonna set a metronome on my phone to 60. Click, 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 and then trying to get to 80. And when I'm working my hips and my inner thighs, I'm gonna do them in standing. And while we all love this beautiful little Jane Fonda, right? Can we do it with a metronome? Like what would 80 be about? Click, 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 with good form. Oh, my Lanta, that's hard. And we need to be breathing. But if we can't do that singular piece, maybe that's the specific muscle that's not being dynamic and pliable that's causing you to pee your pants. And we look at that speed and muscular control around the butt and around the inner thigh. Lacey, again, she's an amazing programmer. She's going to be playing with speed, right? We don't just do down for 2 and up for 2. We play with dropping fast. We hold. We come down for 2. We hold. We explode up. You're already playing with these different speeds. So So my one challenge to you, if you're having leaks with jumping, with running segments of your workout, start your workout with the big 3, or at least 3 minutes on a couch ball, leaving you one. We might even give away some if there's good questions. And then throughout the warm-up, you're gonna have active abs, relaxed butthole throughout your whole warm-up. And then in your WODs, in your workout segment, before you pick up your bar, before you pick up your kettlebells, you are relaxing everything. And then keeping your pelvic floor relaxed, you're engaging your abs. All right, I got it. Now I'm gonna go and I'm gonna pick up my weight and my body is gonna do the right thing. Now I no longer have to really think about that. If you're leaking with squats, hinges, lunges, same thing, honestly. We just need to train the brain to keep the abs engaged and allow the pelvic floor to be elongated as you go through your RDL and straighten back up. That's why people are peeing their pants at lighter weights here, because their pelvic floor is not pliable enough to elongate and absorb that work. Okay, what did we miss?
Question? In that, core and pelvic floor.
Yes.
I think core engagement, and I've never really been aware of pelvic floor, and now is sort of, you need to do both of those things at the same time. Should we be thinking about engaging the pelvic floor on something like a lift, just like you did, or should we just assume that it is going to be happening naturally? And I'm going to come back to the same question for running, because the answer may be different.
Absolutely, that's great. I'll answer for lifting, answer for running. Excellent question from the handsome man in the back. His wife's gonna beat me up after this. My husband too. It was a question about what is the core, and is the core different than the butt, and is it good to always think of engaging the core and the pelvic floor together? And the answer is, it depends, but in general, the only time that I want you to think about engaging your core with your pelvic floor is if it's within a specifically prescribed physical therapy exercise that you understand why, and that you are fully relaxing the pelvic floor after, or if it's within a Pilates class. Joseph Pilates was a PT. He's a kick-ass dude, right? Ton of his stabilization is like pelvic PT on steroids, but the typical cue will be engage the tummy and the pelvic floor for the duration of the exercise. And if you're someone who's leaking, that might not serve you the best during this rehabilitation time, during this like 6 to 12 week period of time where we want to train the brain to understand the tummy versus the pelvic floor better. But in reality, with practice, do I ever take that away from someone? No. We relax the pelvic floor first, we do the workout, and we relax the pelvic floor again after the workout, because there's so much additional benefit to that. When I'm weightlifting or jumping, the only thing that I'm thinking of is active abs, relatively relaxed pelvic floor throughout my workout. If I try to think of Kegel, that is the fastest way to pee my pants. Like, I probably could make myself pee my pants trying to do it. It is not a motor program that we're meant to have like control over. It's something that's meant to run in the background. So that's the weightlifting perspective. I do teach people about what the pelvic floor does in a squat and in a hinge, and in a very controlled warm-up, lightweight environment. I might have you, okay, tighten your tummy. Can you feel the pelvic floor? Oh, I wish I had some cool tights. Can you feel the pelvic floor blossoming? And then, I get 1 million viewers from this. But it's even that, it's not something that I'm meant to be like really exaggerated. It's just something that I'm supposed to allow to happen.
Similar with running, you're never gonna hold a Kegel throughout a run.
That's good.
Never. You may, if you're in a rehab setting or you're having some dysfunction, you might think about a slight increase of that abdominal activation. I often will just have folks, instead of consciously thinking of it, try to get them into that position naturally so it happens that way. So then you don't have to think about it. If that's not clicking, I will have you intentionally pay attention to it during your runs. Probably only during your easy runs, not during anything else. It's the only time to really work on your technique or form changes is during an easy run. So does that answer your question?
Do I show them the leaning forward thing?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone who wants to try something fun with us, stand up.
Everyone let's put a hand on your low belly, maybe a hand on your back. You're standing straight up and down here, kind of pay attention to the tension in those hands. And without doing anything else, slightly tip forward like you're falling into the wind. You should feel that slight tension
Cool.
of your tummy. So that's kind of the position I would have you try, you know, with jumping, jump roping, running. Just that very slight angle.
And keep your butthole relaxed. What other questions do we have, team? You guys are a great audience. No other questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, are there other symptoms of like pelvic floor dysfunction other than peeing your pants?
Oh my gosh, that's an excellent question. Thank you. The lovely lady in the back asked if there's other symptoms of pelvic floor dysfunction besides peeing your pants. Absolutely. You know, I went over a list of things that were normal at the beginning. Any difference than that would be indicative of pelvic floor dysfunction. So, pee urgency, inability to pee when you want to. That's called urinary retention. And that can happen for a lot of different reasons. Pelvic floor is one of them. Boys in the room, prostate changes, and especially pelvic floor, pelvic health is one area where men, you are like 20 years behind the ladies. Sorry. But it's true, and it's because ladies are starting to own this space and talk about their pelvic health and wellness, and men are not. And if you bring it up, often it is a medical solution. Here's this pill, here's this surgery. Oh, it's your prostate, you're just gonna have prostate surgery. And maybe it is your prostate, and if it is, then you need surgery. But if it's your pelvic floor, we wanna address that first. And so I'm really thrilled that we've got a couple men here in the room. Thank you for being forward thinkers. But to answer your question, because I went on a diatribe, besides the pee urgency or frequency, constipation, pain with pooping, dysuria is the sensation of discomfort when we pee. And it could be indicative of a UTI, but in clients who have frequent UTI symptoms with the absence of a urinary tract infection, it's actually due to the pelvic floor muscles being so tight that they irritate the muscles in the same way. And we see that commonly post-abdominal surgeries, post-babies, post-menopausal. Again, as there's all these changes in the pelvic floor, it just gets really tight and we're not aware of it. Painful intimacy, painful tampon use, painful periods. Periods are
Sometimes just like a low tummy pain.
Yeah.
Like if you are out being active, low tummy pain.
the tummy hurting, and that's, you know, periods are not supposed to hurt at all. I'm sorry to be the first person to tell you all this. They should be completely pain-free. And I learned this. I'm a double board certified doctor in physical therapy. I've been in public health 25 years. I think 5 years ago I learned that periods were meant to be pain-free, and I didn't believe the person that told me. But it's true. Your only symptoms should be 3 to 4 days of moderate bleeding. I know.
Cramps, that's all.
Nope. And it's the cramps come from hypertonicity of the pelvic floor muscles or a little of adhesions in the uterus as it's trying to contract to slot the lining, energy balance, dehydration, magnesium, salt levels off. There's a ton of things. That's like a whole nother talk. What else? Oh, sometimes just hip pain or back pain.
Yeah.
That's not responding to standard care. Where'd Patty go? Patty the pelvis here. If you've had piriformis syndrome or low back pain your whole life and it's never gotten better with doing the right thing, if the right thing is just working on the tummy and the back and the butt, but you've got this muscle connecting to the front of your sacrum, pulling on it all damn day, maybe the piriformis is tight because it's actually your obturator internus, your pelvic floor muscle pulling all the time, and the piriformis is just collateral damage. So in the PT world, shit should get better when you work on it. It shouldn't take 12 weeks of the same boring exercises. You should notice big changes nearly right away. And so if you have been working on something that's not getting better, and it's in the pelvis or the leg, think of the pelvic floor. Anything else that's different than when you get to kind of dysfunction? Inability to find your glutes apart from pelvic floor or abs. Sometimes the glutes, if here's your random factoid for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. They're innervated from the S2 segment, so the nerve to the muscle comes from like bottom of your butt. That's the same segment, different nerves, but that innervates your pelvic floor muscles. So if your brain senses tension from that region, it doesn't know necessarily if it's butt or if it's pelvic floor. So if you're trying to do an RDL and then one side is woefully different than the other, or it hurts, maybe you're not feeling your butt. Maybe you're only using your pelvic floor and it's meant to be a part of that, but not the prime mover. So that's really cool. I think we did a pretty good job there. Pain, happy, the loops we talked about. Yeah.
Yes. I was just wondering if there's like a mental component because like when you get home and all of a sudden you know that the bathroom is near, is that an emergency?
Oh my gosh, you wanna take this one?
Yes, there is absolutely a mental component. When we're peeing, anytime there are these triggers, you're training your bladder that is when it should void. So it's very trainable. It's oftentimes we call this like urgency. There's some kind of a trigger. It's gonna tell your brain's gonna tell that bladder, hey, we better contract.
Time to pee! Let's go!
Hopefully you've got the control to, make that urge go away. If you don't, then you'll leak. So there's absolutely, tricks you can do. If you get that urge, you get home, you're walking through the door, and that's, your trigger. Do some small, like pelvic floor contractions, maybe 5 of them. That should tell the bladder, hey, it is not time to go yet. Settle down. That's how it should work. And then, if the urge is truly there, calmly walk to the bathroom. You may find that you really don't have to pee. You can go about your business for another 45 minutes before that urge starts talking to you again.
The bladder's so trainable. And the key is a real urge, in general, will come 3 to 4 hours after your last pee. It's going to build gradually. So an urge that comes on like a friggin' freight train, especially when you first get home, especially if you turn at the same sign, oh, there it is, every time, that's just your bladder learning to associate. It's Pavlov's dog. Rather than salivating approaching a treat, your bladder learns, oh, this is when we pee. So those quick flicks that Jen said, let's practice, let's all sit down. There's a couple different ways you can do this, and it is the difference between the on and the off that will calm the bladder down. So option 1, just your tummy. Leave your sweet pelvic floors down on these seated surfaces. Engage just your deepest, lowest tummy muscle, like you're stretching your sweet bladder. Remember my silly guy, on the bladder here, I'm so sad because my tummy's not supporting me. I'm gonna lift me up and then I'm gonna lock me down. 2, and then lock. 3, lock. 4, lock. 5, lock. And that stretch and relax inhibits the bladder. It puts the brakes. And then after the 5th time relaxing, keep your rectum relaxed. Gently hug the bladder with your deep tummy, and like Jen said, try to delay the void if it's convenient, 10 to 15 minutes. Often you'll get a lot longer than that. If we do need to eventually listen to it, we walk calmly to the bathroom. If the bladder yells at you again, we stop. We could repeat with that tummy, or try just the pelvic floor. So rectum, vag, or scrotal region, and P parts or base of the penis. Lift everything up, and then all the way back down. That's more important. 2 up, all the way back down. A silly visual. Pick up a blueberry. Who's picking up a blueberry with their crotch? You'll get that. That's what they train us in horses. It's really weird. Lift it up, and then roll up. Drink the chocolate milk. Stop drinking the chocolate milk. Even though we call them quick flicks, it truly is the difference between the on and the off that's going to inhibit the overactive bladder. So in that case, after you did 5 of the pelvic floor, contract and relax, you would still end with just that gentle hugging with the belly. And again, go about your day, try to delay the void if it's convenient, 10 to 15 minutes, or walk calmly to the bathroom. When you do pee, count how many seconds you peed for. If it was a fake urge, you're gonna pee for like 2 to 5 seconds. And then you can say, ha, sucker, I could've waited. And now you're gonna start to buy in. Thank you for coming. Make sure your email's on there if you want links to the videos, okay? Yeah, right in that sheet right there. And you can play around with what strategy works better for you, just the tummy, just the pelvic floor, or both. Whatever one you're able to get a bigger difference between on and off is going to be more successful. We can all use that as well for on a road trip or on an airplane. We actually do have to pee, but the pilot's landing and we can't, right? Like, this is a useful tool to not pee your pants with a functional pelvis as well. But those types of things, we call them, behavioral, they're learned just in case pees. We'll start to see our bladder waking us up repeatedly at night. We can again try to use those quick flicks to stay asleep. If eventually we listen, okay, well, we just count how many seconds we pee for. Maybe I drank a liter of water before bed. I'm gonna have to wake up and pee, right? It's better to be hydrated than not. But if I have a good solid pee, okay, good, I know I have to pee. But if it's only like 2 or 3 seconds, we can say, you know what, bladder, shame on you. Shame, shame, shame. You better listen up, sucker.
And what's the norm, like 13 seconds?
Like, yeah, 12 to 15 seconds is the average norm. And, sometimes if you're a person who's had irritable bladder your whole life or nervous about peeing your pants, if you're just a general highly strung person, our nervous system's wired directly to our pelvic floor. That's going to make the pelvic floor rest tighter. If you've always peed frequently and you get imaging done, you might be told you have a stiff bladder, that the muscle's thick. I have a stiff hamstring, like, I can work on it. It's the same thing. We can make these meaningful goals and changes. So it's often really beneficial, and Dr. Jen and I both can guide you through a bowel and bladder diary. How much fluid are we taking in? How frequently are we peeing? And for how many seconds? And yes, it's not rocket science when we count seconds. It will vary based on the quality of our stream, but it's going to give us a general picture. And then we're going to be able to say, hey, you're perfect. Oh, hey, friend, we're peeing 2 seconds every hour. Let's make the first step. Here's the next step that we can work towards. And we don't have to be like perfect in all aspects of our life to have a totally functional pelvis. I drank mostly coffee today. And I'm not peeing my pants because I, in general, do better than that. So my body's resilient enough that it can handle this not so great day. But if we kind of live on the edge, all the time I'm dehydrated, all the time my pelvic floor's tight, eventually something's going to give. Cool.
What about like the reverse, like stage fright?
Totally. Hesitancy or stage fright, like we really have to pee, we can't relax the muscles. It's the same type of coordination, just a bigger problem. They're just holding so tight that they're kinking the urethra. There could physically be like an actual directional thing happening. Oh, the question was about what about stage fright? If you have to pee, you can't. So it could be that the pelvic muscles are so tight they don't have the control to tell them to relax. In that case, we'll often see it along with constipation as well, the inability to have a good poop. There could be a mechanical change in the position of the bladder, uterus, rectum, prostate that's interfering. And so there are some kind of important check marks to kind of go along if that's the case, but we can still help in that case.
What about when, like with a sneeze, which is sort of, it's not really unconscious, but it comes on quickly, and then it's like a really big contraction. Is that something that just would improve
It improves.
with
We
the
work-
exercises, or is
Yeah.
there?
So just like we talked about, bridging up from basic low-level exercises to faster exercises with the overall body for controlling leaks with running and jumping. With a laugh, cough, or a sneeze, thank you, Kathy, for showing us a cough. Put your hands on your lower belly and don't do anything special. And give a fake laugh, cough, or sneeze, and notice what direction do your hands go. We're so silly, aren't we? And most of us right now, it's going to go out a little bit. Someone who's having pee leaks and problems, they're typically their pelvic floor resting a little bit up here. If your belly goes out with that laugh, cough, or sneeze, your bladder's also being pushed slightly down. So, my challenge to you, put your hands back on the lower tummy. Do that gentle drawing in like you did when you leaned forward with Dr. Jen a minute ago. Gentle little hug, lifting the bladder up. Now do that little laugh, cough, or sneeze, but try to specifically drive the tummy inwards while you laugh, cough, or sneeze while relaxing your pelvic floor. That is now managing your pelvic pressure and is also protecting your spine from disc herniations. So we want to, that's called the NAC. And it's primarily most effective when we focus specifically on the abs because they're such a bigger muscle group. So even if it still goes out a touch, and we assess this, we actually have our finger right behind your bladder when we assess this, we're touching it. And you cough, and the first time it's like, blah, blah, like the bladder's like a water balloon, like pushes out into our finger. And we say, okay, cool. Now gently draw in your tummy, now repeat that. And even if the tummy still goes up, there's at least 50% less pressure. And that type of contraction, Mary, is a similar speed that the body will have to do to jump rope or to jog without leaks. So it's kind of a cool thing to practice in daily life. If you have enough warning, before your laugh, cough, or sneeze, put your hand on your belly and try to draw it in. Another trick, if we're out with the ladies, perhaps having a glass of wine, and we're like, oh no, I think I might pee my pants. Lift your arms up when you're laughing, because if we do this, it actually decreases the fascial support and like makes it more likely that I'm gonna pee my pants. But if I lift my arms up, that lifts all the fascia of my whole body and helps keep my bladder in a happy place so I don't pee my pants. Pro tip, you're welcome. Things you never knew you never knew. And then like if you try to do this neck and before you sneeze, you'll invariably start making the weirdest faces, and your friends, your partners are like, what's going on? You're like, oh, shut up, I have to sneeze. Achoo! Any other questions?
I think I've heard that pelvic floor strength also contributes to like better performance athletically, and so can you talk about that?
Yes. Okay. Do you want to go?
Ultimately, you're gonna have a better foundation to work from. Your pelvic floor is a part of your core. We think, okay, your core is your pelvic floor, it's your tummy on the front, your multifidus, and the deep spinal muscles on the back, and your diaphragm. And so if all of those are working in coordination, you're gonna have a stronger foundation to then move from. So whatever that movement is gonna be, whatever that sport is, you're gonna be set up from a nice, stable position. Do you wanna add anything?
No, that's great. Yeah, and just dynamically, again, for weightlifting, right? The fact that you have this appropriate dynamic stability now from all the directions is gonna let you lift heavier weights, move faster, more safely. And you're not peeing your pants, so you're not gonna be afraid to try things, right? So you're gonna move yourself in different ways. And that's gonna keep our metabolic rate up and our bone density up. So there's so many different facets to this. Go for it.
I was wondering if you wanted to say anything about the pelvic floor and hip mobility.
Oh, that's an excellent question. Thank you, my lady. Lovely lady in the back. Pelvic floor and hip mobility. So, Jen, do you want to take this one or shall I?
I'll let you.
Okay,
tackle this
awesome.
one,
I
yeah.
love this one. So, pelvic floor, remember it's the hammock. That's the literal bottom of our pelvis. The pelvic floor muscles insert to our sacrum. A lot of the deep hip rotator muscles go from the sacrum over to the inner hip. So, chronic piriformis dysfunction, we can see that elevated pelvic floor tone like we talked about. But in general, if the pelvic floor is just a little elevated tone from life and not knowing about our pelvic floor, it might be what's limiting you when you're trying to stretch your hip flexor. It might be what's limiting you when you try to do, I know, I'm getting there, I know exactly how you have. It might be what's limiting your rotation. It might be what's limiting your abduction, or your ability to move the hip out to the side. And if that motion specifically is limited, we can't move the hip out to the side, essentially the hip is like this ball that sits inside a socket, right? And it's meant to roll in one direction and glide in the other to stay in the center of the socket. And when the pelvic floor is tight, it pulls the whole hip up into this socket, slightly forward and slightly kind of towards your midline. This is going to accelerate arthritic change. That's not cool, Batman and Wonder Woman. And you'll notice it possibly as pain on the outer hip, possibly as pain in the groin, possibly as inability to open the leg out to the side in adduction, abduction. And where this question was coming from is someone had a history of a stiff hip. And they would get it mobilized in PT and it would move perfectly, but then they'd come back the next week and it would be right back to where we started. And we did sitting on the towel and the couch ball, and within 2 visits, the hip mobility normalized. And that's awesome because, again, that's saving you years of arthritic change over time and setting you up for success.
And I can now get on a horse again.
Yay! That's what it's about. Loving life, enjoying life without pain. I mean, that's a huge deal. And we would love to assume that our healthcare providers are holistic, right? But not many people know what you guys just learned. And even us, we try to be extremely holistic, but we might be a little like pelvis focused, right? So if you're working on something and it's not getting better all the way, or you're just not feeling like this is the sparkle unicorn solution, look farther. You know, Lacey's had this great talk about nutrition, stress management, and all of this stuff. There's so many pieces to this puzzle, and you deserve access to all. Soapbox. Okay, I'm going to stop the stream, but we can continue the questions for everybody that's in here. Thanks for joining.